Cindy, hypothetically, if I told you I was an undercover MI5 spy,
I would say no, you're not.
but what if I was very convincing about it?
I would still say no, you're not.
What if I told you that you specifically were being targeted by the IRA and the only way to keep you safe was to give me all your money and move to a different city and never speak to your family again?
I would say, Dylan, you work in a car dealership.
What if I told you that was my cover?
I would say that is the least convincing cover story I have ever heard.
And yet, Cindy, a man named Robert Hendy-Freegard used almost exactly this pitch for over a decade on multiple intelligent, educated, perfectly reasonable adults, and it worked.
It worked for a decade.
A decade on multiple people simultaneously.
Welcome to HILLarious Media. I'm Cindy.
I'm Dylan, and today we are talking about the most audacious, baffling, infuriating con artist you have possibly never heard of.
Robert Hendy-Freegard, bar staff, car salesman, fake spy, real monster.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so Robert Hendy-Freegard, born 1971 in England. By the early 1990s, he's working as a barman at a pub called The Swan in Newport, Shropshire. That's it. That's his whole deal. He's a barman.
Not a spy.
Not a spy, not affiliated with any intelligence agency, not trained in any kind of covert operation. He is pulling pints in a pub in rural England.
And yet,
he is charming, charismatic, good-looking by all accounts, and he has identified something very specific that he is going to exploit: agricultural college students.
agricultural college students.
The pub was near Harper Adams Agricultural College. Students would come in regularly, and Freegard starts chatting to them, building relationships, and then to select targets, he deploys the pitch.
The pitch?
He tells them, quietly, confidentially, like he's trusting them with something enormous, that he is an undercover MI5 spy, that his work at the pub is a cover, and that he has become aware that certain people connected to their college have IRA ties, and that extension, these students are now in danger.
That is an absolutely unhinged thing to say to someone ordering a Guinness.
Completely unhinged. But here's the thing, this was the early 1990s. The IRA was very active. Bombings were happening on the British mainland. It wasn't totally outside the realm of possibility that intelligence operations were happening in ordinary-looking places.
So the fear was real, even if the spy was not.
Exactly. He found a real anxiety and weaponized it. And his first major victims were 3 students: John Atkinson, Maria Hendy, whose name he later took as part of his own, and Sarah Smith.
He took his victim's name.
He hyphenated it into his own surname, Robert Hendy-Freegard. The Hendy is from Maria Hendy, one of the people he was controlling. He wore it like a trophy.
That is deeply creepy and also extremely on brand for this man.
Okay, so let's talk about how this actually worked in practice, because it's both incredibly simple and incredibly sophisticated at the same time.
Walk me through it.
Step 1. Identify a target, usually someone intelligent, a bit idealistic, trusting. Freegard actually preferred smart people. He said once that stupid people were boring to manipulate, which tells you everything about him.
He found it more satisfying to break smart people. Got it. He's the worst.
The absolute worst. Step 2, build intense trust. He was charming, funny, attentive. He made people feel special. Often, he would start a romantic relationship with the target or with someone close to them.
How many people was he romantically involved with simultaneously?
At various points, at least 3 or 4 women at the same time, all of whom believed they had a unique relationship with him. None of them knew about the others.
So he's running parallel long-term romantic cons.
While also running a spy con. He is a busy man, Dylan.
A terrible busy man.
Step 3. Introduce the threat. The IRA is watching you. Your family might be compromised. You cannot trust anyone except me. This is when he starts isolating victims from their support networks.
The classic cult move.
Textbook. And here's where it gets really dark. He would then issue what he called tests to prove their commitment to their own safety. And these tests were essentially ways to extract money and total obedience.
What kind of tests?
Things like, you need to prove you can live independently and off the grid, go to this city, find a job, live in this bed set, do not contact your family, wait for my instructions. And they did it.
They just went.
They went. John Atkinson, one of his first victims, spent years moving from city to city at Freegard's instruction, working menial jobs, handing over his wages, cutting off his parents completely. His family thought he was dead.
His family thought he was dead.
For years, his parents were grieving, and he was alive in some bedsit in Sheffield, waiting for a spy handler who was actually a car salesman to tell him it was safe to come home.
How does someone stay in that situation for years? Like, at what point don't you just leave?
This is the question everyone asks, and it's worth actually answering carefully, because the short answer is coercive control is not rational. By the time you were deep into it, your entire reality has been shaped by this person. You have burned every bridge. You have no money. You have been told for years that the moment you break cover, you or your family will be killed. Your sense of what is normal and safe has been completely dismantled and rebuilt around this one person.
It's not that different from a cult, really.
It's exactly a cult of one. Freegard was the leader, the doctrine, and the only exit point, and he was very good at it.
How much money did he take overall?
Estimates vary, but prosecutors put it at around £1 million across all victims, and that includes one American woman, a psychologist named Dr. Kimberly Adams, who wired him enormous sums of money from the United States after he convinced her he needed funds for a covert operation.
A psychologist?
A trained psychologist who studied human behavior for a living, which is not a criticism of her at all. It's actually evidence of how skilled he was. If anyone should have been able to spot manipulation, it was her, and he still got her.
That is genuinely chilling.
It really is. And then there were the children.
There are children in this story?
2 of his long-term victims had children with him. When those relationships eventually started to crack, he took the children and disappeared with them. They were eventually recovered, but for a period he was using his own kids as leverage.
I want to go on record saying I have never disliked a podcast subject more than I disliked Robert Hendy-Freegard.
He is genuinely one of the most comprehensively awful people we have covered. Okay, so how does this end? Because it does end, eventually.
Please tell me it ends.
It ends. And it ends because of a mother who simply refused to give up on her daughter.
Tell me about her.
Dr. Kimberly Adams, the American psychologist, had been under Freegard's control for several years. Her mother, a woman called Sydney Cookson, could see that something was deeply wrong. Her daughter had changed completely, was sending money to this man, was telling strange stories about covert operations. And Sydney did what any of us would hope our mothers would do. She hired a private investigator.
Episode 13 flashback. The PI in the solder case disappeared. This one hopefully goes better.
This one goes significantly better. The PI starts tracking Freegard, and meanwhile, Sydney actually manages to get Kimberly on the phone and convinces her to meet in person. They arrange a meeting in a London hotel.
Does Freegard find out?
Freegard shows up to the hotel, and that is where the police, who had been building a case against him, arrested him. June 2003. It was a sting, essentially. Sydney Cookson and a private investigator brought down a man who had evaded suspicion for over a decade.
I love Sydney Cookson.
Sydney Cookson is an absolute hero. She flew from America, she navigated this incredibly delicate situation, and she got her daughter back.
What happened when his victims found out the truth? Like, when it became clear there was no MI5, no IRA threat, none of it?
Devastation. Absolute devastation. Years of their lives gone. Relationships with their families that had to be painstakingly rebuilt. Financial ruin in some cases. and the psychological aftermath of realizing the entire framework of your reality for the past decade was invented by a bartender.
Bartender.
A bartender who moved to selling cars. That was the spy. So Freegard goes to trial in 2005, and it is a big deal. Multiple victims, years of evidence. The prosecution lays out the full scope of what he did.
And he's convicted?
He is convicted. 9 counts of kidnapping, 8 counts of deception, sentenced to life in prison.
Good. Great. That's where the story ends.
That is not where the story ends.
Cindy.
In 2007, the Court of Appeal overturns the kidnapping convictions
What?
on the grounds that the legal definition of kidnapping requires physical force or the threat of it, and because his victims had technically moved and stayed of their own free will, even though that will had been completely manipulated, the kidnapping charges couldn't stand.
That is the most technical, maddening loophole I have ever heard of.
It is genuinely infuriating. The court acknowledged what he did was awful, but the law at the time didn't have adequate language for what coercive psychological control actually looks like. He wasn't physically restraining people, he was mentally restraining them, and the law hadn't caught up.
So, what was he actually convicted of after the appeal?
The fraud charges stood. He served time, was released, and this is the part that will make your eye twitch.
There's more?
He was arrested again in 2022 in France because he had started a new con. New identity, new victims, same playbook. The man did not stop.
He got out of prison and immediately went back to conning people?
Immediately, he is a creature of pure habit.
The Netflix documentary The Puppet Master came out in 2022, right around when he was arrested in France?
Literally the same year. The documentary drops, France arrests him. It is the most accidentally well-timed true crime content release in history.
Incredible. Terrible. Incredibly terrible.
I want to spend a few minutes on the question that I think everyone listening is quietly asking, which is, how? How did intelligent people fall for this for so long?
Because I think the instinct is to judge the victims, and that feels wrong, but also I genuinely don't understand how it happens.
Right, and I think there are a few things worth saying. First, Freegard specifically targeted people during a period of vulnerability or transition, students away from home for the first time, people in new cities. That is not an accident. That is a predator identifying a window.
You're more susceptible when your normal anchors aren't around.
Exactly. Second, the con was incremental. Nobody woke up one day and handed a stranger 100,000 pounds because he said he was a spy. It started with small things, a confidence shared, a small favor asked, a test passed. Each step normalized the next.
Boiling frog.
Classic boiling frog. And third, and this is the one I keep coming back to, Freegard understood that once someone has invested years of their life and all of their money into something, admitting it was a lie feels more devastating than continuing to believe it. The sunk cost of leaving is enormous.
So the longer it goes on, the harder it is to leave, because leaving means accepting everything you gave up was for nothing.
And that everything you did, cutting off your family, abandoning your career, moving city after city, was done for a lie. That is a psychologically impossible thing to accept quickly.
It almost makes it more impressive that any of them got out at all.
It makes Sydney Cookson even more heroic. She reached through all of that and pulled her daughter back. That takes an extraordinary amount of love and patience.
All right. I want to ask you the question I always want to ask about con artists. Is Freegard a monster, or is he just a deeply, profoundly broken person who found a way to feel powerful?
Both. I think both can be true, but I land on monster because there is a point in the con, probably pretty early, where he knew exactly what he was doing and chose to keep doing it. The children especially. Taking your own children to use as leverage, that is not broken. That is calculated cruelty.
I agree. The children are the line for me. You can almost construct a narrative where a charming, delusional person spirals into something they can't control, but the children are deliberate.
And the fact that he got out of prison and did it again immediately.
Yeah, that's not someone who's broken and doesn't know better. That's someone who likes doing it.
That's someone who likes doing it.
Robert Hendy-Freegard, not a spy, not affiliated with MI5, not connected to the IRA. A bartender from Shropshire who decided that was too boring and became one of the most effective psychological manipulators in modern British criminal history.
And who to this day has never fully explained why he did it. He has never given a real account of his motivations. He has never expressed genuine remorse.
He did once tell a reporter that he simply enjoyed it.
Which is somehow the least surprising and most horrifying thing about him.
If you want to go deeper on this one, the Netflix documentary The Puppet Master from 2022 is excellent. His victims speak for themselves, and it is both illuminating and devastating.
The victims in this case, John, Maria, Sarah, Kimberly, and the others, gave up years of their lives, and most of them rebuilt, which is honestly the most impressive part of the whole story.
And Sidney Cookson.
And Cindy Cookson, who we would like to formally nominate for a medal.
That concludes episode 14 of HILLarious Media. 3 true crime episodes in a row. We have become a different podcast, Cindy.
We have become slightly darker.
Slightly. Subscribe, leave a review, send us a case suggestion. We are very open to where this goes next.
I'm Cindy.
I'm Dylan.
And if anyone approaches you in a bar and says they're an undercover spy,
They work at the bar.
they work at the bar. Good night.